Welcome to the Winging It Travel Podcast, a show dedicated to travel. Tune in each Monday to hear captivating stories from some of the world's most travelled people, die-hard backpackers, travel professionals, and inspiring explorers. Let's get stuck in. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. We are midway through 2024, and I thought I'd check in on the place I'm currently at, which is Vancouver. So I'm going to explain a little bit why we came back to Vancouver, and maybe some advice for people moving here, and also some areas to live and also check out if you're looking to move here full time. First off, why did we come back to Vancouver? Well, on our road trip last year in 2023, we assessed all the cities that we visited, and that was most major cities apart from Edmonton or Saskatoon. And we came to the conclusion that I think originally we had the thought that it might be Montreal, Toronto, Halifax or Vancouver. They were the four options. And as we visited, we kind of ruled each one out and came back to Vancouver. So Toronto for us was very close. It's a huge city, lots going on by the lake, but the winters are brutal. Halifax was too small for us. We actually thought it was bigger than it was. Lovely though, by the coast there. Awesome setting. And Montreal, which is probably my favourite city, need French, and we don't speak one lick of French. So some reasons for coming back to Vancouver. It's right by the water, so the nature's pretty good. You've got mountains, water, and we kind of missed that a little bit. And when we came back, it's like, we can go along the seawall, walk around Stanley Park, go around Kitts, or go around North and West Vancouver. So we love the seawall, we love the nature. They do have a lack of snow here, which is a big plus for me because I hate it. We already had established friendship groups here, which is easier to settle back into because if you go somewhere new, you've got to start all over again. And we also had potential for jobs. We come back from the trip last year, at the start of this year, not too much money left in the bank, and there was an opportunity to come back and earn straight away, and that's very strong. So we took that leap. And also we do have a bit of a love for the city. We're kind of used to it, been here for almost 5 years now, and it's kind of the place we feel at home the most. But thoughts on Calgary, Toronto, Montreal, Halifax, all great cities. I think if you're looking for a happening city, Montreal was probably the place to go. If you want your sports, that's going to be Toronto. If you want a bit more laid back and not as many people, that is definitely Halifax. And Calgary is interesting. It's got all of that, lots of space, cheap place to buy houses, lots of land, and very close to the proximity of the Rockies, which is always a bonus if you can. Now, advice for people looking to move to one of the big cities or Canada as a whole, you've got to bear these things in mind. The type of job that you want. So, for example, if you're a bit of a tradesperson or you're in oil and gas, I think Calgary would be pretty cool to go to. The cost of living is going to be something you need to consider. Vancouver and Toronto are by far the highest, but the others aren't that cheap either. Access to other parts of Canada, we bet they're in the east. So if you want to go to Prince Edward Island or Cape Breton, being based in Montreal or Toronto makes it that little bit easier to get to. And also for Eastern Canada, you have access to the East Coast of America. So New York is the prime example here. And West Coast of US is obviously accessible for Vancouver. The whole West Coast is doable with a 3-hour flight. You can even drive down it as well, down the 101. So that's a bit of a plus for being here. You've got to think about the weather. I know I keep banging on about it, but the sunniest place in Canada is Calgary. But if you don't like snow, I would avoid everywhere apart from the West Coast. You do need to factor that in. If you're looking to stay in Quebec province, you're going to need to speak French for a job. I think you can maybe slightly get away with English in Montreal, but it'll be pretty tough. So overall, Vancouver does take it just. I mean, for me, I do love being around the mountains and the water. It is a big plus. I do love the coffee scene here, and all the big acts come here for music, and also there's a bit of sport going on. It's a bit of a dead city though. I mean, if you're looking for a party or something happening, definitely go to Toronto or Montreal. So it depends what you want. But for me, Vancouver is just that right blend. You can get direct flights to Europe, which aren't too bad. And that's another thing to consider. If you're looking to go back to Europe fairly often, then obviously Montreal or Toronto is going to be easier and cheaper. I think even Halifax fly direct to London as well. So that's another cost you've got to factor in. Right, let's get to Vancouver. I've got some areas listed here for you to check out if you're looking to stay, short or long term. Just a couple of things from me. Please head to my new website, www.wingingittravelpodcast.com. The link is in the show notes. And secondly, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I'm really enjoying showing you my content I have from the last year or so. Thank you. And I'll give a bit of a breakdown of each one because we've been to most of them and we've definitely lived in 3 of them. So here we go. First off is Kitsilano, probably the most popular place to come for expats, and I can see why. It's got a fantastic beach access all the way down the coast up to UBC, which is the university. So Kitsilano Beach is the first one you come across, which is awesome, but you can keep going down to Spanish Banks and Jericho along the coast. I do think they're bringing in parking charges now, so it's going to be a bit harder to commit to. Used to be free parking down there. 4th Avenue is very trendy in Kitsilano. Lots of independent shops, cafes, brunch places, and just a great vibe along there. It's a kind of a mix of a uni students and professionals, young professionals and families. It's got those like nice leafy suburban streets, nice houses, but apartment buildings are pretty poor. They're kind of wood or old. In our experience, they've not been the best. And Kitsilano is, of course, expensive. And one thing to bear in mind for Kitsilano is along the Broadway, they're now building the new metro line, which is going to be completed in the next 2 or 3 years. So it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing on the eye, and there's a lot of noise going on because of those works. But eventually, that'd be a pretty cool link to the airport. Next up is called West End. This is in downtown, and it's right next to Stanley Park, going all the way into downtown a bit further on, into the east side. Access to the metro is huge here, so you don't need a car. You can get down there from the airport. Stanley Park is going to be a walking distance away, so that's a cool little spot to go in the morning. 10k around there. You can also bike around it. Apartments are your only real option because they have limited space, so the houses are definitely taken up by people who got in there early. There's nice cute little things going on there. You've got access to Denman Street, a lot going on there. Again, beaches are huge. English Bay is down by the coast there. Also, if you go to Third Beach in Stanley Park, that's quite nice as well. And it kind of gives me, in UK terms, a bit of a feel like Brighton, English Bay. So it's got those like high-rise buildings alongside the beach. So we have lived in Kitts and not West End. And the next place we have lived in, and that's North Vancouver before we left last year. This area is known for some great walks. And if you've got a dog, fantastic place to be. It's got a huge number of breweries if you love your drinking and you love to try new craft beer. Lots of options. You do need to get the boat there or drive across the 2 bridges, which are both inconvenient. The bridges are a nightmare. If you're getting the boat, you need to go from Waterfront, which is right in downtown. Much more spacious, great for cars, for parking. Lots of room to build your house, but a very expensive area. Definitely a family vibe there. Lots of cafes to check out. A huge hospital there as well, if you need that. And I would also say, just beware, if you're in the upper areas of North Vancouver into the mountain, then bears could come down in the summer, which we've seen a few times. Right, next place is where we are now, which is Ambleside and Dunderave. This is in West Vancouver. They have 2 beaches here, which I just named, Ambleside and Dunderave. You can walk between the 2, nice little sea walk, about 5k. Older clientele here, richer, been here for years, got in before crashes, so those classic baby boomers, if you like. Quite a few properties going on. Rent is not too bad. It's slightly cheaper than North Vancouver, but still fairly expensive. Lots of space, good for parking. And also it's close to downtown. You're just over the bridge on Lionsgate there into Stanley Park. So you can get the 250 bus straight in, 20 minutes, no messing about. If you're looking to go to the island, Vancouver Island or the Gulf Islands or the Discovery Islands, you're going to need to get the ferry from Horseshoe Bay, which isn't that far from West Vancouver. 10-15 minutes on the highway down the one there. So that's pretty decent, because if you're looking to go there at the end of the day after work on a Friday and you're based in Kitsilano, you've got to get over a couple of bridges and it's an absolute nightmare. Right, a couple more places. I've got Mount Pleasant here, which is a bit more of a city vibe, much busier, easy access to downtown over the Canby Bridge. The Seawall Walk is very nice. They have a place called Olympic Village, which is where the accommodation for the Olympians was built. So they've got some nice modern apartments down there, not too badly priced, right along the water, along the seawall, great views, and quite a nice vibe down there as well, good for dogs. And you have access to a metro straight to the airport, so great transport links, lots of trendy cafes, some breweries down there as well. But again, some of it is part of the works going on for the extension of the metro. And I'd say if we were to move again, that would be an area that I'd consider. And just a bit further east of that is a place called Commercial Drive. I'd say it's a little bit more earthy. You're going to see a bit more homelessness here, a bit like Eastside Downtown. There's going to be some pockets of areas like Little Italy, so some good Italian food down there, much more culture going on, lots of different types of public transport. The buildings are old. It's a little bit more congested down there. Great links into downtown as well. But I'd say we go there once or twice every half a year just to get that coffee and brunch in. And that's where we first stayed when we first arrived in Vancouver. We quite enjoyed it, but for us, I think the access to the beach or to the water is a bit more pressing than more concrete. So those are some of the areas you want to check out. If you're looking to visit for the first time, I would probably base yourself in somewhere like Kitsilano or West End. Easier to get to, very trendy areas. They're kind of little cities in themselves. All the amenities are there. And I'd say if you're looking for maybe slightly cheaper accommodation to stay in, it's going to be East Van, which is the Mount Pleasant Commercial Drive, around that sort of area. So overall, Vancouver, expensive city. You're going to have to deal with that when you come here. The wages are not too bad. They're pretty good before we left, but now lots of jobs and lots of applicants. So we're now back to that intense competition to get a role if you're looking for a job. And I would say my favourite area is Kitsilano. It's got my favourite cafe there. I love walking up and down the hill to the beach and along the seawall, which goes all the way through to Mount Pleasant. Very nice walk. And I kind of like the vibe in there, the leafy streets. It's got a nice atmosphere. But the metro build is kind of a bit of a put off at the minute. And we're currently in West Van, which is also very nice. Down the beach, can't complain. If you've got any questions, let me know. If you need to find out some more information, a bit more granular for each of those areas, if you're looking to move or visit Vancouver, send me a DM or an email at jameshammondtravel@gmail.com. I'll get back to you. And that is today's solo episode. Get to Vancouver, enjoy the expensive property, the fantastic coffee, some decent beaches, expensive flights in and out, and the most incredible nature in and around the Gulf Islands and the coastal parts of BC. See you next time. Ciao. Hey, yeah, just a quick one. I just want to say there are many ways to support this podcast. You can buy me a coffee and help support the podcast with $5. Or you can go to my merch store with the affiliate link with TeePublic, where there's plenty of merch available to buy, such as t-shirts, jumpers, hoodies, and also some children's clothing. Thirdly, which is free, you can also rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, or Good Pods. Also, you can find me on social media on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Simply just search for Winging It Travel Podcast, and you'll find me displaying all my social media content for travelling, podcast, and other stuff. Thank you.